Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted wilderness. It's quiet, too quiet. The only sound is the beating of your heart. The trees loom tall, their shadows stretching like secrets, hiding something in the depths. You know you need to move forward, but something inside holds you back. You feel fear, doubt, a deep sense of unease, and yet there's an undeniable pull to venture deeper. What if I told you that the very thing that scares you most, the thing you've been avoiding your whole life, could be the key to unlocking your deepest potential? What if the wilderness you fear is not something to be conquered, but a path leading you to a life you've always dreamed of? We all have these hidden fears, these parts of ourselves we choose to ignore or suppress. They are the things we'd rather not look at, the aspects of our personality that make us uncomfortable, the behaviors we deny, the desires we bury. But what if these very things, the ones we're running from, are the very pieces we need to embrace in order to become who we are truly meant to be? Take a moment. Look within. How often do you hide parts of yourself? How often do you avoid certain feelings or thoughts because they make you uneasy? How often do you judge others for the very same traits you refuse to acknowledge in yourself? It's a paradox, isn't it? We judge others, yet fail to recognize that the traits we despise in them may very well be the traits we need to confront in ourselves. You see, we're conditioned to believe that our weaknesses are flaws to be erased. We're taught that the things that make us feel vulnerable or uncomfortable are to be hidden away. But what if everything you've been taught about your shadow self, those parts of you that feel too dark, too painful, too wrong, was completely upside down? What if those very traits, the ones you fear, are the ones that hold the key to your greatest strengths? Imagine for a moment that what you consider to be your greatest weaknesses are, in fact, a treasure chest of untapped potential waiting for you to claim it. But this isn't something you can achieve by running from it. The more you suppress, the more control it gains over you. The more you push it down, the more it rises up, forcing you to confront it at the most unexpected moments. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push, the faster it will surface. And when it does, you'll be forced to face it. Here's the truth. What you run from is what you're meant to understand. The shadow, that dark and hidden part of yourself, isn't your enemy. It's a messenger, trying to guide you toward a deeper understanding of who you are. But to receive its message, you first have to stop avoiding it. You have to stop pretending it isn't there. So, let me ask you, what if your greatest fear is actually your greatest teacher? What if the part of you that you think you need to hide is, in fact, the key to unlocking everything you've ever wanted? What if this journey into your shadow is not a journey of destruction, but one of deep, transformative creation? I know this is hard to believe, but it's a journey worth taking. In the next section, we're going to dive deep into why this hidden force, the shadow, holds such power over us. We'll uncover its roots in psychology, philosophy, and society, and explore the profound effect it has on our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. But more importantly, we'll begin to understand why it's time for us to stop running and start embracing the shadows that are shaping our lives. Are you ready to take that first step into the unknown? Stay with me, because what we uncover next will change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Let's begin with something many of us would rather ignore. Why do we hide from ourselves? It's not just that we suppress certain traits or behaviors. There's something deeper at play here. The truth is, we've been conditioned to believe that parts of us are unworthy, even dangerous. We've been taught that some feelings are too much to handle, that certain desires or aspects of our personality should be buried. But why? Where does this idea come from? The answer lies in the shadows of psychology and philosophy. Think back to Carl Jung, who called these hidden parts of ourselves the shadow. For Jung, The shadow wasn't just about our flaws, it was everything about us that we reject or deny. It's the part of us that doesn't fit into the neat, socially acceptable boxes we've been taught to occupy. It's the anger we try to push down, the jealousy we're ashamed to feel, the dark thoughts we'd never admit to anyone. It's not just our bad qualities, it's everything we perceive as unworthy of our conscious selves. But here's the paradox. The more we suppress these parts of ourselves, the more power they gain over us. They don't disappear. Instead, they fester in the dark, influencing our behavior, our decisions, even our relationships without us realizing it. Jung wasn't the only one who understood this. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke about the will to power, the internal drive that we all have to become who we truly are. Yet, we often suppress this will out of fear. Fear of what others might think, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Nietzsche argued that in denying our shadow, we deny our very potential, holding ourselves back from achieving greatness. Think of this in terms of cultural conditioning. From a young age, we're taught to fit in, to behave in ways that society deems acceptable. We're told what's good and bad, what's normal and abnormal. But what happens to all the parts of ourselves that don't fit those molds? They're pushed into the shadows, into the unconscious. And here's where it gets interesting. These parts don't just disappear. They continue to exert influence over our lives in subtle, often unnoticed ways. Consider Jean-Paul Sartre, who believed that much of human suffering comes from a lack of authenticity. In his existential philosophy, Sartre argued that when we deny our true selves, our desires, our darkness, our true nature, we become alienated from our own existence. We live inauthentically, trapped by the expectations of others. The longer we ignore the shadow, the further we stray from the life we were meant to live. But this is not just some abstract concept. In fact, it has real consequences. Denying our shadow leads to self-sabotage, unresolved conflict, and mental strain. We experience anxiety, depression, and frustration not because something is inherently wrong with us, but because we're fighting against our own nature. We're holding on to parts of ourselves that are meant to be integrated, not repressed. This inner conflict, this dissonance between our true selves and the masks we wear for the world, is what causes us to feel lost, disconnected, and unfulfilled. Now, consider this. What if we've been doing this all wrong? What if the only way to heal, to grow, to truly become who we're meant to be is to stop running from our shadows and start confronting them? The unseen consequence of ignoring the shadow is that it continues to shape your reality in ways you don't even see. It distorts your perceptions, your relationships, and your sense of self. It manipulates you into thinking you're not good enough, or that your flaws define you. It tells you that you should be ashamed of your vulnerabilities, and so you hide them, trying to live up to an image of perfection that isn't even real. But there's a deeper truth that we need to confront. The shadow isn't a force to be feared. It's a force to be understood. And understanding it is the first step toward freeing ourselves from the grip it holds over us. But before we get to that breakthrough realization, we need to take a deeper dive into what these unseen consequences are and how they play out in our everyday lives. Stay with me, because what you'll discover next will change the way you see the world, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. You've felt it, right? That subtle tension, the nagging sense that something's not quite right, even though you can't put your finger on it. Maybe it's that feeling of never truly being yourself, always playing a role that doesn't fit. Or perhaps you react more intensely to certain situations, like an internal pressure waiting to break free. Here's the truth. This is your shadow at work. It's a powerful force influencing your behavior and shaping your experiences, often without your awareness. The shadow operates in the background, quietly controlling decisions, emotions, and relationships. It's like a puppeteer, pulling the strings from the shadows. These parts of you that you've rejected, ignored, or forgotten haven't disappeared. They've simply been pushed into the unconscious, and they still control you. This hidden influence can show up as emotional outbursts, like getting angry when someone cuts you off in traffic or feeling jealousy when you see someone else succeed. These emotions aren't random. They are a reflection of unresolved feelings that have been repressed. Jung believed that the shadow doesn't disappear when ignored. It resurfaces in disruptive ways, often triggered by seemingly small events. The shadow also impacts your relationships. Have you ever found yourself stuck in toxic relationship patterns, attracting the same type of partner over and over again? That's your shadow at play, reflecting the parts of yourself you haven't yet acknowledged. The narcissistic partner might mirror your self-worth issues, or a friend's constant criticism might reflect your own self-doubt. This is the shadow's power. It shapes everything you do and think, but we don't often see it. We're conditioned to present a perfect image of ourselves, hiding the parts we deem flawed. Yet, perfection is a lie. The world seeks authenticity, and that can only come when we face the darkness within. Neurologically, we're wired to avoid discomfort. Our survival instincts tell us to run from things that make us uneasy, but avoiding the shadow only strengthens its grip. Each time we repress a part of ourselves, we push it further into the unconscious, making it more powerful. This is why we experience sudden emotional outbursts or feel disconnected from the world. When we ignore our shadow, it's like trying to hold a shaken bottle of soda. Eventually, the pressure builds, and the explosion is uncontrollable. This isn't just a personal issue, it's a societal one. We live in a world that pressures us to conform, to hide our flaws, and to act a certain way. The more we comply, the more we suppress the very aspects of ourselves that could lead to greater fulfillment. The shadow doesn't just affect your personal life, it shapes how we view and treat others. Every societal conflict, every division, every instance of prejudice stems from our shadow. We project our unresolved fears onto others, creating more conflict and separation. Imagine a world where we all chose to confront our shadows, where we accepted the parts of ourselves we hide and used them to become more compassionate and authentic. The more we ignore our shadow, the more it controls us. It's an unseen force steering the ship while we think we're in charge, but it doesn't have to be this way. There is a path to freedom, a way to confront the shadow and reclaim your power. In the next section, we'll discuss how this rebellion against the shadow can completely shift the way we think, live, and engage with the world around us. Stay with me, because the next part will unlock a new way of thinking that will set you free. Here's the truth. Confronting your shadow isn't just about acknowledging your flaws, it's about embracing them. It's about shifting how you see yourself and the world. This shift is powerful. It's the moment you realize that the parts of you you've been running from are the very parts that will set you free. The first step is acceptance. It's time to stop denying those parts you consider undesirable. The anger, jealousy, and self-doubt, these aren't parts to reject, but parts to understand. When you face them, you take away their power over you. This might sound counterintuitive. We've been taught to hide our imperfections, to avoid anything uncomfortable, and to present a polished, perfect version of ourselves. But here's the thing. Perfection is a trap. It keeps you stuck in suppression, avoiding your true self for an illusion that leads to frustration. So, what happens when you embrace your shadow? When you confront the parts you've hidden for so long, you begin to shift. You stop pretending and become more authentic, grounded, and free. This is where the real power lies. True strength doesn't come from running from your flaws. It comes from integrating them. When you accept the parts you've denied, you turn weaknesses into strengths. Your anger becomes passion, your jealousy, motivation, your fear, courage, You channel your shadow as energy and growth. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. It takes courage to honestly say, "This is who I am." It requires vulnerability, a willingness to face discomfort, and the strength to confront what you've avoided. But once you face your shadow, you reclaim your power. The key isn't acting on every impulse or emotion. It's about understanding your shadow and integrating it into your awareness. Recognize that these emotions and traits have something to teach you. When you stop resisting them, you unlock their potential. This process is like a rebirth. You shed the false versions of yourself and embrace the truth of who you are. Transformation happens not by pretending to be perfect, but by living authentically, flaws and all. But here's the exciting part. This transformation isn't just personal. When you break free from your shadow, it affects everything around you. It transforms your relationships, your work, and how you interact with the world. Imagine showing up fully, not hiding anything or pretending. When you stop wearing a mask, you invite others to do the same, creating deeper, genuine connections because you're no longer afraid to show who you are. It's not just about relationships. Embracing your shadow unlocks creative potential. The energy spent repressing your shadow can now be redirected into something meaningful. Creativity, passion, and purpose come from embracing the parts you've hidden. This is why the most successful people aren't perfect. They've embraced their shadows. They've learned to use their pain and flaws as fuel for growth, turning weaknesses into their greatest strengths. So, how do you begin? Acknowledge your shadow. Stop running from it. Look at it, understand it, and let it be part of you. Don't suppress or change it. Just let it exist. From there, integrate it into your life. When you do this, something incredible happens. You stop feeling at odds with yourself. You stop thinking something is wrong with you. You begin to feel inner peace because, for the first time, you're at peace with who you are, flaws and all. This is true freedom. Are you ready? Ready to stop running from your shadow and live authentically? Ready to embrace what you've been avoiding? This is your chance to reclaim your life. The power is in your hands. In the next section, we'll explore the ultimate truth about your shadow, the final revelation that will change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Stay with me, because this is where the real transformation begins. You've made it this far, and now it's time for the ultimate revelation. Are you ready to hear the truth that will transform everything you thought you knew about yourself? The final truth is this: your shadow is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. The shadow you've feared, the one you've spent your whole life running from, is not here to destroy you. It's here to awaken you, to challenge you, to push you beyond the limits you've set for yourself. Here's the truth. The shadow is the key to your full potential. Everything you've been running from, the anger, the sadness, the pain, the fear, those are the parts of yourself that hold the greatest power for transformation. They are your raw, untapped energy, waiting to be harnessed. Think about it. Every struggle you faced in your life, every hardship, every moment of pain, it all exists for a reason. It's trying to show you something deeper about who you are and what you're capable of. When you embrace your shadow, you unlock the power to transform your entire reality. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. When you're real with yourself, when you stop hiding behind facades, you can finally begin to live with purpose, passion, and clarity. This is the ultimate paradox. What you fear most is what will set you free. The very things you've avoided, the parts of you that feel the darkest, are the parts that hold the power to create the life you've always dreamed of. It's not about fighting against these parts of yourself. It's about integrating them, using them as fuel to propel you toward greatness. And here's where the real shift happens. When you finally accept and integrate your shadow, you stop feeling like you're missing something. You stop thinking that there's some ideal version of yourself that you need to become. You realize that you've been whole all along. This shift changes how you see the world. It changes how you approach challenges, how you face adversity, and how you show up in your relationships. The power of the shadow is that it allows you to see clearly. It clears away the illusions you've built around yourself, allowing you to see the truth of who you are. And once you see the truth, nothing can hold you back. The world around you starts to change as well. You begin to attract the people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your authentic self. The moment you stop running from your shadow is the moment your life starts to align with your deepest purpose. So, what's the next step? It's simple. Keep going. Continue to confront your shadow. Continue to integrate the parts of you that you've hidden. This is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. But with each step you take, you move closer to becoming the most powerful, authentic version of yourself. Remember, your shadow is not something to be afraid of. It's your greatest ally in the journey towards self-discovery and transformation. Embrace it. Learn from it. Use it to fuel your growth. And when you do, you'll find that your greatest struggles will become your greatest strengths. In the end, you'll look back at the journey and realize that everything you've ever needed was always within you. The power was always yours. All you had to do was embrace it. Now go forward into the world, not as a perfect version of yourself, but as a fully integrated, authentic human being, flaws and all. This is where true freedom lies.